Hey everybody, this is Russ and this is the Overlooked Podcast. Today we're going to look into the case of Kianna Galvin of South Elgin, Illinois. She's been missing since May 6th of 2016. She was 17 years old at the time of her disappearance. Kiana was last seen about 12:30 p.m. on May 6, 2016. She had told her younger sister she was headed to a nearby park to meet with a friend and that she would return home in a couple hours. That was the last time any family or friends had ever seen or heard from Kiana. So I have a couple issues with this case. The biggest thing I have an issue with at the beginning of the case is that it seemed like agencies tried to classify Kiana as a runaway. Her mother stated in an interview that it seemed like people were trying to say that she was probably at a crack house, that she was possibly sex trafficked, or again, that she had run away, though she had no history of those things. And it is now 2021. Family and friends have still not heard from her. When she left to go to the park, she left behind her wallet, she left behind her purse, she left behind her cell phone charger. Now, all these are things that if I'm leaving and I'm leaving for good, I'm going to take with me. Now, because she was 17 years old, she didn't have a car that we could trace. She had no bank account. She didn't have any credit cards. But it is important to mention that she did take her cell phone with her, and her cell phone hasn't been used since 2 p.m. that day. Another thing I believe really kind of tainted the media's perception on this case is the fact that Kiana had been on juvenile probation prior to her disappearance. Now, she wasn't on probation when she disappeared. It had actually recently ended. Her mom did an interview with the Vanished podcast, and by the way, go check that episode out. They have an interview with mom, with grandma, and they actually have a couple segments with the sergeant that is working her case. And that episode, I think it premiered around November of last year, so it's pretty recent information, and it's a good episode. I definitely recommend you go listen. Again, it's called Vanished, and I know it's definitely on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Now, again, on that podcast, they had talked to her mother, and when it came to her probation, mom basically said it was like regular teen angst. Her and her mother got into it. Her little sister got scared and called the police. And mom really believes that the whole thing was blown out of proportion, and it just felt like they were trying to make an example out of her. Now, also around the time she disappeared, Kiana had lost her job, but from everything that I could find, it seemed like she took it in stride and she was pretty much in good spirits. Again, Kiana was 17 years old. We're not talking about a young woman that's in her 30s, that has a mortgage, that has a car, that has children to feed. Losing your job at 17 is like losing, extra money. It was not something that was like, oh, I just want to disappear. Because she was still living with mom and she was being well taken care of by her mother. At the time of her disappearance, Kiana was working on getting her GED. She was talking about going to college at an art and design school in Atlanta. At the time of her disappearance, she was single. She had actually just recently broken up with her ex-boyfriend, but police pretty much ruled him out immediately as a suspect in her case. What we end up finding out is that Kiana didn't go to the park on the day that she disappeared. Kiana actually went to visit a man who lived in a basement of one of the residents on her street. She had arranged to meet with this man to pick up some weed. Now, this man was questioned by the police, and initially he told the police that, yeah, she never came inside my house. We made the deal outside and she had left by 12:45. Now, he managed to include in there that, yeah, she was texting another man. But actually, Kiana's cellular records show that there were no more texts after 12:35 p.m. I also think it's really weird that he tried to throw in, yeah, she was texting some guy, because if you're making a quick purchase, no matter what it's for, especially with someone that's not your friend. You're not telling them who they're texting. You're not showing them their phone. How would he know she was texting a man in particular? So it's really one of those things that's immediately suspicious. It immediately jumps out and goes, yeah, please get off my case. Let me throw you off my trail. Now, police actually believe that Kiana's phone was either completely destroyed or someone removed her battery not too shortly after she went missing. And that's because her phone was completely disconnected from the cellular networks, all the cellular towers. So that's not I'm turning off my phone. That's not I'm putting my phone on airplane mode. That is not I am putting my phone on silent. That is an intentional act. Now, the police interviewed other people. The police actually interviewed the next door neighbor of the man she bought weed from. And of course, he told the police a different story. He actually saw Kiana go inside this man's house. This same neighbor actually ended up having to call the police a couple days later, about 6 days after her disappearance, to say he found blood on one of the garbage can lids. Now, later, we'll find out that Kiana's mother was there when they were taking away the trash cans. And it seemed like the evidence was not preserved. It didn't really seem like they were trying to preserve the evidence. She says that the trash can lid was just kind of thrown in the back of the car, wasn't put in any plastic bag. They didn't corner off the scene or anything. The blood did test positive for human blood. The blood also tested positive for being Kiana's blood. What we will later find out is that there seems to be that a couple people saw a mattress a little bit after she went missing with blood stains on it. Unfortunately, this mattress was picked up and taken somewhere to some dump. I believe it was her grandma who, in an interview when she was talking, she said that it really seemed like the police kind of just shrugged it off and was like, I mean, yeah, there's tons of stuff at the dump. It's going to be almost impossible to find. Now, the police do say that they halted trucks from dumping in that area for a while, but again, families say that the police acted so slow on her case that them doing this really seems like it wasn't going to help, because her case wasn't treated like a disappearance from jump in regards to how the police treated the case. Now, let's get into this guy that Kiana was last seen with. The guy that the neighbor said he saw him go into this man's home. Now, I want to warn you guys that I will not be naming this guy. The reason I'm not naming this guy is because the police have not formally said that he is a suspect. They haven't even formally said that he is a person of interest, though they do say they have a person of interest. I am from now on going to refer to the guy that she bought weed from as her neighbor, because he also lived on the same street as her. Again, the reason why I am not stating his name is that the police refused to name him in any articles, in any official statements. Also, again, the one podcast I could find on this, the one media source I could find on this, they reached out to the police, and the police strongly asked that they did not name this man. Out of respect of the case, I am not going to name him. But what I will say is that if you type in Kiana's name, Kianna Galvin, in Google, and of course, read the articles, get all the information you can, but also look into social media accounts. Look into some of the crime junkie pages. And there, everybody names the same person. And if you find his name, you can look up his record. You'll find other articles about him in other cases. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But I will not be naming him officially for liability reasons. All right. So this guy, the neighbor, that's what we're going to refer to him as, was actually later convicted of assaulting a woman and sentenced to 15 years in prison a year after Kiana's disappearance. Now, the police did search this young man's home, but we have no idea if anything was ever recovered. From what I can gather, it looked like his home wasn't even searched until sometime in November. Kiana went missing on May 6th of 2016. So lots of time had passed. Lots of things can be cleaned up. Lots of things can be removed. A whole crime scene can be lost in that amount of time. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know if they found anything. They have never released anything. And when it comes to this case, the police are keeping a lot of things close to their chest. Sometimes that's for the benefit of the case, but also sometimes it makes it a little harder for people to come forward because they don't know what's connected. They don't know, there's some things that the police can kind of let the public know, and someone can go, oh, wait, y'all found this? I know for a fact that he bought this there. And I know for a fact, I seen him on Facebook with this thing. And then that can lead to other information. But again, sometimes police have to keep those things to themselves because they're trying to build a case, and they believe that releasing it to the public is just going to hurt their case, and have people be more guarded regarding information that they know, and it will make it harder for them to do their job. Now, foul play is suspected in Kiana's disappearance. Authorities actually believe she was murdered shortly after she disappeared, but the issue that we have is that we do not have a body. As many of you probably know, it is extremely hard to build a case without a body. If you do not have concrete evidence, the people almost always walk, even with high suspicion. Now, let's look into this quote-unquote neighbor background. So as I said earlier, he's currently in jail after pleading guilty to slashing his girlfriend's throat a year later with a knife. He was given a shorter sentence in a plea deal, so he only has to serve about 85% of that 15-year sentence. And also, it brought a lot of his charges down. He was originally charged with attempted murder and aggravated domestic battery. What he actually ended up pleading to was felony count of armed violence in April of 2018. Now, this attack took place April 9th, 2017. It appears that the neighbor and his girlfriend were arguing around 2 a.m. that morning when he grabbed a knife and decided to slash her throat. The woman fell to the floor. He kicked her and then he fled out the apartment window, according to what I can find in the different articles about his case. Of course, at the time, he was already on probation. He was on probation for drug offenses when the incident occurred. It's important to mention, though, that the young lady, the survivor of this attack, yes, she survived. Her injuries were considered serious, but they were not life-threatening. But this young lady was actually a childhood friend of Kiana. Family have said that this woman was questioned prior to her attack in regards to Kiana's case, but we don't know what happened in her questioning. Family said she was questioned multiple times and that there was a lie detector test, but we do not know the outcome. I can't find anything on it. Family did not mention what the outcome was as well. Family has also mentioned that police have not been exactly forthcoming with the information, have been very slow in regards to the handling of this case, and they do not believe they did the work that they were supposed to do. Again, that podcast I was talking to you about earlier, Vanish, in their episode, they interviewed Sergeant Martinez. Now, Sergeant Martinez seems to believe that they are working hard and that they, are trying to answer as many questions as the family has, and that they have reached out to family. In a lot of these cases, you'll find that what the family says, the police are doing what the police say they are doing, are usually two different things. And that's really all I'm going to say on that. I just want to bring up that she went missing in May. The neighbor of the guy that we're calling neighbor reported that he found blood on his trash can lid literally 6 days after she disappeared. There was talk almost immediately after that there was a mattress at some point in time after she went missing that had blood on it that was picked up. And again, they did not search this man's home until November 6th. So, you come to your own conclusion about that. Now, according to Kiana's mother, in May of 2017, the sister of this man, who again we're calling neighbor, contacted Kiana's mom and basically said, hey, my brother's willing to tell you what happened to Kiana if you'll post his bond. His bond was $2 million at that time. Now, of course, Kiana's mother refused, but she did attempt to visit him in prison in hopes that he would tell her something. Of course, he refused to see her. Her mom says she wrote him for about 18 months. He never wrote back. Family also states that at some point in time, there seemed that he made some sort of confession, but it appears that he almost immediately took that back. Again, Sergeant Martinez was the one of the investigators that was interviewed in regards to this case, and again, really did not give us a lot of information. What we know is that they are still working on the case, that they have a person of interest in mind, but again, they're not naming this man as a suspect. And again, there's lots of legal reasons why they cannot name this man as a suspect. And I know I have seen it sometimes, especially when a person of interest is jailed. And they're jailed for a particularly long time, that police just rather use that time to gather more information before they charge them or name them as a suspect. So it could very well be that they're doing that. He has to serve 85% of a 15-year sentence. But at the same time, there is a mother missing her daughter. There is a grandma missing her grandchild. There is a sister still crying over the loss of her sister. Now, again, we have to officially call this a disappearance, but again, authorities do not believe Kianna Galvin is alive and still with us today. They do believe that she was murdered, and it happened pretty shortly after she disappeared. Her family has pages, missing pages. Her mom still actively posts on it. You can find the family's page under Justice for Kiana on Facebook. Again, Sergeant Martinez was the main person working on this case as of November 2020. You can reach out to him or the South Elgin Police Department at 630-232-8400. Again, you can Google South Elgin Police Department, and that number will pop up. Also, when you look up her page and you look up her case, that's the number that pretty much every article gives. I looked it up. The South Elgin Police Department also has an anonymous tip line that you can call. It's 847-695-4195. Again, you can Google South Elgin Police Department anonymous crime line, and that number will pop up. They also have a text number that pops up as well, but I know a lot of people don't trust anonymous text, but they do have that option. They have a couple other options as well. Again, I believe I said this on the last episode that anonymous tip lines, look, they're not looking for you to be the investigator, so there's no reason to be scared to call and be like, yeah, but they might ask for more detail and I only know this little thing. And that's perfectly fine. They just want you to let them know whatever little tip that you have. And they have people that will go and then they will do the investigating on that. Now, though it sounds like we definitely have a person of interest, and it sounds like there's a person that pretty much everyone that knows about this case and involved with this case, it seems like pretty much everyone believes he's the person who is responsible for Kiana's disappearance. The thing is, there's not enough evidence. There's not enough people that have come forward. There's not enough that they can actually charge him. There's not enough that they can figure out what happened to her. And I am asking that anybody that hears the story, share the story. And you don't even have to particularly share my podcast. You can go Google some articles and share the articles. You can go to the family's page and share information from the family's page. But the hope is that we are able to give her mother and her loved ones some peace. Her mother has been missing her baby girl since 2016, and her mother has not given up hope. Her mother posts actively on their Facebook page. Her mother is trying to keep her case alive. Her mother is still trying to make sure the police are doing their job. So if you heard anything, if you know anything, even if you think like, yeah, but again, I've talked about this on other episodes that sometimes we think, yeah, I mean, I know I'm not related to the case. The streets know, the police have to know, but that's not always the case. And also you might have a little tidbit that helps them connect certain pieces that will help them build the case. And we really have to be reliant on tips, in particular for this case, because police believe that this will be a nobody case. So, in that regards, I ask that you guys look up her family's page. I'm going to post pictures of her. I'm going to post missing persons flyers of her, so you can see some of the details in that as well. That will be on my Instagram account. As always, I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are having a good week, and I hope you stay tuned for next week. You guys have an amazing week ahead and stay safe.